welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another Manchester United live show, the first live show of the Ralf Rangnick era, guys. And I have to say about Sunday's game, I am so excited, and I just can't hide it, and I'm trying really hard not to sing because, I don't want to hurt your ears. But I cannot wait for the game on Sunday. I'm actually going to Old Trafford. I'm going to the game. I'm gassed because you know what's made me so excited? Watching Ralf Rangnick's press conference. He's such an intelligent guy. And this is no disrespect to Ollie or Carrick, but just the way Rangnick talks, he's just so much more professional than what we've had. He talks tactics. Ollie always talks about hard working, fighting spirit. Rangnick's talking about what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And I absolutely 100% love to see it. 100% love to see it. So I got lots and lots to talk about. I've got to talk about what Rangnick's plans are, some news that's come out, a new coach coming in. Rangnick's talked about certain players. I'm going to be quoting him, what he said in the press conference, a little bit of thoughts on yesterday's match, as well as thoughts ahead for the Crystal Palace game. So lots and lots and lots to talk about in today's video. So do make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe down below if you're new, share the video and all of that. Bish, bash, bosh. We also hit 25k yesterday, so thank you everybody who went and subscribed to the channel. Thank you everyone that's watching that subscribed. Yes, so please do, of course, do that. But yeah, today, the Ralf Rangnick era starts today, guys. Madness, madness, madness. And I was actually looking at this, So Ralf Rangnick takes over Manchester United. They're just 4 points off fourth, 12 points off the top with 24 games to go in the Premier League, whilst the Champions League group has already been won with a game to spare and our FA Cup campaign is yet to begin. So we've got, we're 12 points off the title, so I don't think Rangnick's going to get us into a title race. We have got 24 games to go. We are 3 points off fourth. We're top of the Champions League group, out of the group, but the FA Cup campaign hasn't started yet. So the season is not over. And, every single week that went by with Ollie at the wheel, I thought every single week our season was ruined. But that win over Arsenal, and Carrick resigned, and I will give you my thoughts on Carrick resigning, but I did talk about that yesterday. Now, that win over Arsenal, guys, is so important, because that win over Arsenal puts us 3-4 points off top four, when instead we would have been eight points if we'd lost off top four. 8 points we'd have been off top four if we'd lost. And that puts Rangnick in a really good position, because winning that game and getting that draw versus Chelsea means that Carrick didn't pass any further behind than Ollie did. Ollie got us 12 points behind, 4 points behind. Carrick got a draw and a win, which got us 12 points behind, 4 points behind. So that space that Man United failed to get someone in because they decided to give Ollie international break on Watford, we managed to recuperate for. So thank you very much, Michael Carrick, for that. The football we play under Michael Carrick was shocking, negative, boring football. And I said this in yesterday's video, but I have so much respect for Michael Carrick, because he knew that he should have been sat with Ollie, and he felt bad sitting there, and he knew he wasn't good enough. And Michael Carrick said he wants what's best for the club. He's always said he's always wanted what's best for the club, and he felt it was best if he went. He thinks that he should have gone with Ollie, and he feels responsible. And that is a true club hero in Michael Carrick. We said that Michael Carrick needs to go, and we take the mick out of them, but in terms of personnel, he's a loyal friend to Ollie, and we have been friends FC. But the fact that he knows it's best for the club if he left, he admitted that he shouldn't have been there. He's lucky to still be there. And he left because he felt he should have left with Ollie. He thought it was best for the club where he left. And I think the mentality to do that, nothing but respect for Michael Carrick. So smash a like for Michael Carrick. And the fact that he got a win over Arsenal in his last game, he's over the moon. And I tell you what, Ollie's probably really happy, because him and Carrick obviously had a very special relationship. But obviously, as I said, the Rangnick era ends, Carrick resigns, and Rangnick and the coaches come in to transform these players. Ralf Rangnick is bringing in some coaches. There's some news and some articles about some potential coaches joining Manchester United that I do want to get into. I will look in a few live chats at the moment, but everybody in the live chat, let me know how you're feeling about Sunday's game. Let me know if you're excited. Let me know who you expect to see. Who do you think is going to start? Because it's going to be hard to predict the lineup, and I will predict the lineup for the Palace game. But it's going to be really hard to predict, because I can't see McTominay playing. I think this could be I don't see McTominay playing, because Rangnick watched that game. And what I really liked about Ralf Rangnick, and Ralf Rangnick shared his thoughts on the Arsenal game, and one thing I picked up from Ralf Rangnick that I was really impressed by was he said, yes, Manchester United won the game, but it wasn't good. Ralf Rangnick, in the least critical way, said, yeah, we won, but it wasn't good. He said, the way we won the game, it could have gone either way. It wasn't a convincing win. It was narrow margins. That's what Ralf Rangnick came out and said. So that already tells us that Ralf Rangnick, and we already knew that Ralf Rangnick was a level above Carrick, McKenna, and Ollie. But you know when we win a game under Carrick, McKenna and Ollie, and we win a game because individual brilliance, Fred got overrun, and when we win a game, it's the same shit tactics every week, and it's just like Ollie goes, well, we won the game, doesn't look at the problems in the game, doesn't look at individual brilliance, won us the game, and goes, well, we won the game. Ralf Rangnick looked at that game and said we didn't win that game convincingly over Arsenal, and he wants us to win games convincingly. And that's the first time we've heard that from a manager in 3 years. He can actually tactically analyse the game, and he knew there were certain performances in that side that were not good enough. Because I think the really frustrating thing for as a Man United fan over the last year and so is we're always talking about the same players: Scott McTominay, Harry Maguire, Fred, Luke Shaw these days now, Wan-Bissaka, Rashford. We're always talking about the same couple of players who play week in, week out underperforming, and it's like the coaches don't notice that. Rangnick notices that. I do believe that Scott McTominay will not start versus Crystal Palace because he kept passing the ball backwards. The only way Scott McTominay starts is because it's Rangnick's first game. He hasn't had time to get to learn the squad. He's obviously had a 2-hour-long phone call with Ollie, and he's already obviously got input from the coaches, so the coaches will tell him to play Scott McTominay. But I don't think Scott McTominay is going to start many games for the Manchester United, because I think the fact that we've got a coach that saw that we won, but saw there was loads of issues with the way that we won, you know, he didn't single out any players. He didn't say that's what we did wrong. But Ralf Rangnick knew there was reasons why we lost the game, because he's an intelligent man. He knows football. And I think, you know, when you watch that United game, you go, Rashford wasn't great. Rashford and Sancho are on the wrong wings. McTominay should not be playing in a pivot, you know. And I think Ralf Rangnick will see that, and he will work on that and all of that. Carrick does resign. Someone said Carrick resigns. What the F are you telling? Carrick's resigned. I assume that was common knowledge, but maybe it's not. Michael Carrick did resign. He's no longer here, and that means Rangnick. The good thing about Carrick resigning as well, there's many good things, but one of the good things about Carrick resigning is actually Ralf Rangnick can bring in 2 coaches, because originally, as Fabrizio Romano said, Ralf Rangnick's going to bring in an assistant coach and a performance analyst. Ralf Rangnick's now, on top of an assistant coach and on top of a performance analysis, Ralf Rangnick's now allowed to bring in an extra coach. So he's going to bring 3 coaches with him, Ralf Rangnick. So, yeah. Yeah, we've got a super chat here. The more you talk about United, the more I want to wife you. Well, thanks for the super chat, but unfortunately, I will never be your wife. And he will move McTominay for Donny and Rashford for Anthony. And you know what? I genuinely believe that he will do that, because these are some comments that Rangnick made about Martial, Rangnick made about some Man United players. And obviously we know with McTominay, he doesn't like to pass the ball forward. And no players pass the ball backwards more than Scott McTominay. I put a poll on Twitter if you were watching my watch along, and I said, what's more likely, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer starting Donny van de Beek or Scott McTominay passing the ball forward? And I think you guys thought that, you know, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer starting Donny van de Beek was more likely than Scott passing the ball forward. So I don't think Scott McTominay is going to be a fan favourite over Rangnick. However, it is a fresh start for Scott McTominay. And Ralf Rangnick, because I think there's a player in Scott McTominay. The fact that Mourinho believed there was a player in Scott McTominay, the fact that Ollie believes there's a player in Scott McTominay, even after inconsistent in performances, and even though we have seen a player in Scott McTominay occasional games, there is a player in Scott McTominay. But we'll actually see. But this is his fresh start, and this is when we're going to see, is Scott McTominay good enough for United or not? This is when we're going to see if Scott McTominay is good enough for United or not, because Rangnick could transform him into a good box-to-box midfielder, tell him to pass or tell him to break the lines, or he could simply be not good enough and fade out the squad and be dropped. Because this is the start of Scott McTominay's career. He's got to prove himself. But talking of Anthony Martial, after Rangnick made some comments on Martial, he made some comments on Rashford, he made some comments on Sancho. One of the key things that Ralf Rangnick picked up was, he said that Anthony Martial only played 5 minutes yesterday and Mason Greenwood didn't play at all. He said these are top footballers. He says, you know, and basically what Rangnick's saying is, he was basically hinting, because he obviously doesn't want to say too much, he doesn't want to, you know, reveal too much or slate too much. But Ralf Rangnick was picking up that Greenwood and Martial, you know, Greenwood didn't play, Martial only played 5 minutes. Ralf Rangnick said that Martial and Greenwood are good footballers. They need to be playing lots of minutes. He said that they were top footballers. He said Martial's a top footballer. And look, you know, Martial's a controversial figure within the United fan base. You've got Martial FC that absolutely love him and think he's better than he is. And then you've got Man United fans that think he's not good enough and crap. I'm very much on the fence. I like Martial. I know the player in Martial, but he's inconsistent. If we get the good Martial back, keep him. He's good enough for United when he's good. And the fact that Ralf Rangnick's been praising Martial and the fact that Ralf Rangnick has said that Martial's a top talent, I think that proves something about Martial. And the fact that he's talked about how he hates passing backwards and how Martial's a top talent, I could see Martial coming in for Rashford, and I could see Donny coming in for Scott McTominay. Ralf Rangnick knows who Donny van der Beek is. Ralf Rangnick is a big admirer of Ten Hag. That's why Ten Hag is the favourite to get the Manchester United job in the summer over Pochettino now. Because obviously Ten Hag worked in Germany at Bayern under Pep. Ralf Rangnick's very familiar with Ten Hag's philosophy and Ajax. And Ralf Rangnick is an intelligent guy. He's going to know that Donny can play in the pivot. He's going to know that Donny was an Ajax player. He's going to know that Donny can make those runs to draw out defenders. He knows that Donny can do the 1-2 and move the ball quickly. He knows that Donny's got that IQ that McTominay doesn't have. So I do strongly believe that maybe not the first game, we might see McTominay or Fred in the first game, but I do believe in the next couple of weeks we will be seeing a bit more of Donny, a bit more of Martial. And I think in general, we'll see a bit more of everyone, because I think one of the biggest problems with these coaches at Manchester United, and one of the biggest issues at the moment going on at Manchester United is the same starting 11. There's very little squad rotation going on at Manchester United. And I think Rangnick's going to rotate the squad because he knows there's a lot of quality players, and he plays quite high-intensity football, so it'd be hard to play the same players week in, week out. And another thing we've got to remember is Young Boys next Wednesday. That's a free pass for Rangnick to try something new. That Young Boys game, we're already out of the group, so it doesn't matter too much if we win or lose. Obviously, you want to win for confidence, but that's Rangnick's experiment. Crystal Palace, he doesn't have much time to prepare. You might have to listen to the coaches, you might have to listen to Ollie and just sort of go with what's sort of worked for us this season. When I say it's worked for us, it hasn't really, Fred, but do you know what I mean? Go with what United know. But I think that Young Boys game is very much a free hit for Ralf Rangnick. I'm actually so excited for that Young Boys game, because even though it means nothing, I think Ralf Rangnick's going to experiment what he wants to do going forward in that Young Boys game, a game that, it's good to take risks in. Rashford seems scared to dribble, been playing with no confidence, too sassy for someone with a lion tattoo on his chest. Thank you very much for the super chat there. I talked about Marcus Rashford in my live stream yesterday, and I said one thing about Marcus Rashford is we know Marcus Rashford is a very, very good player. We know Marcus Rashford's a very, very good player, but he hasn't been a very, very good player for the last year and a bit. He's not quite been, his top self. It's not quite been his top self. And I think the situation is with Marcus Rashford is he peaked 2 years ago. I feel like Greenwood, Rashford and Martial, and I said this in yesterday's video, I feel like they peaked 2 years ago because they haven't improved under Ollie and the coaching. And the reason they haven't improved is because they're the same player they were 2 years ago. Players have got to adapt. Players have got to be coached to become better. And Rashford's very predictable. Rashford is a player that all you need to do is tell him what he's doing wrong and he'll get better. But I don't trust these coaches to tell Rashford what he's doing wrong, because these coaches and Ollie, for the last 2 years, we've had the same coaches that played McTominay over Donny van der Beek. Every fan can see that Bailly's been better than Maguire, Donny's been better than McTominay. When we play attacking football, we're better. When we play like this, we're better. And we see it loads of times, but our coaches don't pick up on it. And I believe, just like the fact that our coaches don't pick up on the fact that we play better with Donny over McTominay and how we play better with Bailly at the back and how we need pace at the back and all of that, I feel like our coaches, Carrick, McKenna, Phelan, haven't picked up. And for the last year, Rashford's problem is he's overthinking it, he's overplaying it, and he's trying to make his moves too complicated. I think Rangnick could say the smallest thing to Marcus Rashford, like release the ball quicker, stop overcomplicating things, don't think about things. I think all he could say is that to Rashford, and you could make Rashford a better player, because even though that's such an obvious thing to say, our coaches played Sancho on the left and Rashford on the right for 90 minutes versus Arsenal, when Rashford's 10 times better on the left and Sancho's a right winger, because the coaches before Rangnick were stupid. And I think, I look at Rashford and I know there's a player in Rashford, and I go, I think all it's going to take is a couple of weeks with Rangnick to see prime Rashford back. All it's going to take is Rangnick to tell Rashford what he's doing wrong. Because I do not trust that they've actually told Rashford what he's doing wrong, even though it's very, very obvious what Rashford's doing wrong. Thank you very much for joining the members club. And Rashford is quality player. Rangnick will improve his game, says Diego, 100%. Rangnick talked about Rashford, he talked about Martial, he talked about Greenwood, he's talked about Sancho. Rangnick hasn't said anything about Scott McTominay. Rangnick hasn't said anything about Harry Maguire. Rangnick hasn't said anything about Victor Lindelof. But Rangnick's been praising our young, fast, quick attackers. And that shows that Rangnick rates them. That shows that Rangnick knows they're top players. Rangnick said today that Martial and Greenwood are top players, and they were barely even involved in the Arsenal game. Rangnick said that this squad has lots of firepower. He wants to give all the players a chance. That's what Rangnick's been saying. And Rangnick also talked about Marcus Rashford. He said Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood and Jadon Sancho. There's so many top talented young players in the squad. You know, Rangnick talked about Rashford as a top young talent. You know, Rangnick said that he knew Jadon Sancho from the Bundesliga. Rangnick actually had conversations with Jadon when he was 17 in London. He was trying to convince Jadon to go to Leipzig, but then he decided a couple months later to go to Dortmund, which he said was not the wrong step in perspective. So I like how Rangnick's addressed Sancho, he's addressed Martial, he's addressed Greenwood, he's addressed Rashford. And he said he wants to give all these wingers a chance. He notices they're all top talents, they've all got firepower, they're all plans in his squad. You know, we're not seeing Rangnick talking about Scott McTominay and how Ollie used to in his press conference. You know, Ollie in his press conferences would go, Scott McTominay, he's such a hard worker, such an asset to the club. You know, plays for the badge, passionate man, academy guy, United DNA. You know, in all these press conferences, it's all Scotty and his United DNA, Scott McTominay. You know, Rangnick's talking about, Sancho, Rashford, Martial, Greenwood. He's not, he's talking about the ability they have and what he saw in Sancho when he was 17 and all of that. And, he also talked about Ronaldo. And Ralf Rangnick told the Manchester United board in his first conversation that Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be considered a key player without doubt. And that's also news that came out. So what I love about Rangnick is because United have been playing as a very defensive team for the last year. We've been a team that's had about 8 bloody defenders. I mean, we set up with 8 defenders versus Chelsea, been a very defensive negative team. And every player that Ralf Rangnick's talking about, every player that's in Ralf Rangnick's plans, every player that Ralf Rangnick's named is an attacking player. He likes Martial, he likes Sancho, he likes Greenwood, he likes Rashford, he likes Ronaldo, he likes Cavani, he likes 6 of our attacking players. That's brilliant. He knows he likes Ten Hag, so he's gonna like Donny van de Beek. Dalot put in a good performance, so we could see more of Dalot over Wan-Bissaka. We're gonna all of a sudden see more technical players playing. And, players like Rashford were like Mane. He talked about Mane, how when he first brought Mane in, he was a very different player. And now Mane's become a pivotal team player that presses and works hard. And, he had that impact on Mane. I think he can have that impact on Marcus Rashford. You know what I mean? He just has a massive, massive impact on, players, Rangnick. And I just think with Rashford and Martial and Greenwood, they've not got better in the last 2 years, but I think they're going to start getting better because he's going to bring in coaches, and there's some news about this coach coming in from one of the RB clubs. I will get into that. He's going to bring them in, and I think we're going to see a slow and good improvement in Rashford, Martial, and Greenwood. And I think we'll see it within the next couple of weeks. Spoken like a true PhD scholar. Thank you very much. And we've got a bunch of strikers. We need a good midfield and defender, says Joker. And going to your point there, because obviously I've been going on about Rashford for a while and how I think that Rangnick's going to revitalise Rashford. But yeah, 100%. There's a news article that I talked about yesterday that came out from the Mirror saying that Rangnick's going to be given £100 to spend in January. That came from the Mirror, so I do take it with a pinch of salt. Rangnick knows we need a CDM because Rangnick's target for January is Hedera from RB Leipzig. Ralf Rangnick knows we need a CDM, and he's going to get a CDM that suits the system. And I do believe the Glazers will probably give Ralf Rangnick a little bit of money in January, which I'm shocked that I'm saying, but the way they've given Rangnick this consultancy role, the way that Rangnick's took to the fans, the position that we're in, we might not get top 4. With the club that we have, I think that we could be getting a January signing in as a CDM. Not definitely summer, maybe January. We'd have to wait and see, but 100% we need a CDM more than attackers. But I'm just talking about attackers for the sense of, Rangnick made Firmino, he made Mane, he made Werner, he made Haaland. So why can't he make Greenwood? Why can't he make Rashford? Why can't he make Martial? It's not too late for Martial and Rashford. They're still young. Greenwood was stagnating under Ollie. It was very, very obvious to see. And now Ralf Rangnick coming in, we're going to see an immense boost in these players because, as I wanted to say, Rangnick made a lot of players, and his coaches and the coaches that worked under Rangnick. So not just Rangnick himself; it's not all Rangnick, but the coaches that worked under Rangnick made Mane. They made Firmino. Look at the Liverpool system. Liverpool scored like 40 plus goals already this season. Liverpool absolutely immense, and 2 of the 3 master attackers in the Liverpool system Rangnick made. Rangnick wanted to bring Sancho to Leipzig. Rangnick likes technical players. Kimmich, Werner. I mean, Werner was a good player at Leipzig. Whether you like him now or not. Rangnick has got a lot of technical players. He's brought in a lot of technical players. I'm just going to read out the super chat quickly, and you're good at it. I would love to see other fan channels like United Stand give you a platform for more fans to notice. Brilliant. Thank you very much for the super chat. Always appreciated all the support. But back to my point is Timo Werner. What I'm going to say is this is what I was getting to because I went on a bit of a ramble. But Timo Werner at RB Leipzig was incredible. You know, Timo Werner at RB Leipzig was incredible. You know, we always banter about Timo Werner. We always go, he can't finish to save his life. But Timo Werner was a player 2 years ago. We'd have taken Timo Werner at Manchester United. If you tell me 2 years ago you wouldn't have taken Timo Werner at Man United, I'd call you an absolute liar, because you would be an absolute liar. But all I am going to show you is this interesting statistic here. Now, let me take my banners off so you can see my bloody face. These are Timo Werner's stats here, and this is Timo Werner's stats under Ralf Rangnick coaching. Okay, Timo Werner, bear in mind here, he was 23, 34 goals and 13 assists. That's 47 goal contributions in 45 games. 47 goal contributions in 3,500 minutes. That's more than a goal contribution per 90 minutes in the Bundesliga. This was Timo Werner before he went to Chelsea, and we all wanted Timo Werner. And Timo Werner was a player that Rangnick found, Rangnick worked his coaches on, and Timo Werner became this RB Leipzig player because of Rangnick's coaches, because of Rangnick found him. And I think, you know, if I look at what I think Ralf Rangnick's going to do with Manchester United, if I think about what I think Ralf Rangnick's going to do with the squad, I think Ralf Rangnick's going to set up in a 4-2-3-1. Ronaldo will be his first striker, do the Poulsen role, what Poulsen did in Ralf Rangnick's 27 Leipzig side. But I think Timo Werner's role will be Rashford's role. I think, you know, what Timo Werner did at Leipzig, the stats, the numbers that Timo Werner had at RB Leipzig is something that I can see Marcus Rashford put up under Ralf Rangnick, because I think Poulsen's role would be Ronaldo. I think Timo Werner's role would be Rashford. Rashford's a similar player to Timo Werner, isn't he? He's pacey. He's a good player. And it sounds weird comparing Rashford to Timo Werner, but I'm comparing Rashford to the RB Leipzig Timo Werner. And my point I was trying to make earlier is I think there's a good player in Rashford, and I think Rangnick's going to stop him stagnating, because I do feel like Rashford did stagnate, but I think he won't. We don't need a striker. I've never thought that we needed a striker at Manchester United. We only need a striker if we potentially lose the likes of Cavani and Martial, but we need a CDM before anything else. And why would we want Timo Werner? We have Mason, Marcus, and Martial. I'm not saying that we want Timo Werner. I'm just saying if you look at what Timo Werner did at RB Leipzig, I think that he's going to try and make Rashford play that Timo Werner role. Because, you know, Timo Werner's RB Leipzig stats, 47 goal contributions in 3,500 minutes at RB Leipzig, Timo Werner got. And I think, you know, obviously we're not going to get Timo Werner at Man United. We might be actually linked to him. But I could see very much Rashford taking on that Timo Werner role where Ronaldo does that Poulsen role. Even, you know, when Timo Werner was just 20 years old, when Rangnick managed Leipzig, he got 31 goal contributions at just 20 years old. So we know that Rangnick knows how to get the best out of young attackers. And I think when you look at Manchester United, and if you look at the strengths in this Manchester United squad, our strength, without a doubt, is young attackers. Our strongest position is young attacking wingers. JADON, Sancho, 21. Mason Greenwood, 20. Marcus Rashford, 23. Martial, 25. Amad Diallo, 18, maybe 19 now. Facundo Pellistri, we look good in pre-season. Anthony Elanga, Shola Shatiri. We've got so many young, brilliant wingers. You know, I think that's our strength, young, good wingers. And you look at, you know, Timo Werner started as a left winger, then moved striker. But you look at all the players that Ralf Rangnick turned into great forwards. Like Haaland, he scouted Haaland, he scouted Mane, he scouted Firmino. I think this is a massive impact that he's going to have on our squad. I think he's going to make a massive, massive impact on our squad. Guys, please, by the way, smash a like on the video if you have not already. And please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers now. So do smash that subscribe button and see if we can get 300 likes by the end of the video. So please smash that like button. Azim says, why Rangnick was not on the list of coaches to replace Oli 1 to 2 months ago? We were hearing Conte, Poch, Zidane, Ten Hag. It seems like that there was a genius who was keeping a low profile. We were linked to Ralf Rangnick after the Liverpool game, but it was very much Conte, because I think what Manchester United wanted was a manager they could get him now. And I think one of the reasons we weren't linked to Rangnick is, again, because we have been linked to Rangnick in the past, and the reason we didn't get Rangnick originally was because the board deemed him too hard to work with, because Rangnick said, what Rangnick did is, Man United wanted Rangnick, but they said no originally, because Rangnick said he'd only take the job if he could have a role on the board afterwards. And 3 years ago, when Man United were interviewing Rangnick, because Rangnick was first interviewed for the job 3, 4, 5 years ago. When Man United were first, I think it was 5 years ago, it was around Louis van Gaal time. But 5 years ago, when Manchester United were interviewing Ralf Rangnick for the job, they rejected him because they believed he'd be too difficult to work with, because he wanted to have some say over transfers. He wanted to have say of what happens on the board. He wanted to have say in decisions. And that was why we didn't get Ralf Rangnick originally. And then I think what United have learned over these last 8 years is Ed Woodward is not good enough at his job. Ed Woodward learning on the job has cost Manchester United more money. Manchester United employ Ed Woodward to save money because he's a businessman and they think it's going to save money. But in reality, all Ed Woodward's done has costed a lot of money in paying out manager compensation. We spent £130 million on Maguire and Wan-Bissaka. Ed Woodward's cost this club a lot of money. And I think after 8 years, the Glazers have woken up and realised, okay, actually, maybe we need someone that knows football and is not a businessman making decisions. Because, Ed Woodward's brought in 5 managers. We paid all this manager compensation. We gave Alexis Sanchez the biggest wages ever. We brought in Wan-Bissaka and Maguire for 130 million. We spent more money than Manchester City in the last couple of years, but we're much, much worse than them. What's going on here? Because Ed Woodward is learning on the job and he's done one of the worst jobs in history. And I think now, 5 years later from when Ralf Rangnick first applied for the job, they probably thought, you know what, we're going to give Ralf Rangnick a consultancy role. Because Ralf Rangnick probably went in for his interview and said, Kimmich, I got him for 500k. He's he was the best right back in the world for a bit. He's now the best CDM in the world. You're crying out for a CDM. He probably said that he got Kimmich for 500k and compared him to Wan-Bissaka that we spent 50 mil on. Ed Woodward brings in Wan-Bissaka for 50 mil. He brings in Kimmich for 500k. He probably said to the board, that's what he did. He probably said to the board, because he knows they got an Erling Haaland session. He probably said, I got Erling Haaland for 8 million. I found him before you guys knew he existed. He probably said, Mane, Firmino, I got them. My coaches made them. We paid a couple mil for them max. Timo Werner, couple mil max. He scouted Jadon Sancho before he went to Dortmund. Like, he wanted Jadon Sancho. He was a player he tried to get. He just chose Dortmund. There's a lot of players that he scouted. And a lot of these top players that were made in the Bundesliga, they were found by Ralf Rangnick or people associated with Ralf Rangnick, or he was aware of them before anyone else. He was aware of Kimmich, Werner, Haaland before anyone else was. And I think what Ralf Rangnick probably did in this recent interview is said, this is what I've done. You've had 8 years of making bad decisions on the board. And I think Man United have finally realised if you give someone like Ralf Rangnick a little bit of power to make footballing decisions, even though he's not a businessman, he's probably going to save the club money, because no club with someone that knows football spends 130 million on Maguire and Wan-Bissaka. No club ever does that. That is absolute madness. And I think, United know that Ed Woodward's crap, because to spend 130 million on Maguire and Wan-Bissaka when Ralf Rangnick can get Haaland and Kimmich in for 8.5 million says all you need to know about Rangnick and all you need to know about Ed Woodward. It just shows, Ed Woodward goes, Richard Arnold's now coming in. Richard Arnold will be making decisions now Ed Woodward is gone. But Richard Arnold said that he doesn't want to learn on the job like Ed Woodward. He's willing to hand the football responsibilities of his job over to Ralf Rangnick, which I think is absolutely exciting. And I think Ralf Rangnick as a manager is exciting because we're going to see good attacking football. But I think Ralf Rangnick long-term is super, super exciting. Andrew says, hearing Rangnick talk about football is so refreshing. The details and intricacies of the game he discusses is impressive. And this is no disrespect to Ollie and Carrick and co, because they are club legends, but the fact that we've had a press conference, we're actually hearing someone talk about football tactics, talk about the game, analyse the game. The way Ralf Rangnick said, yes, Manchester United won, but that was a game that could have been 3-0. That was a game that could have been 4-2. That was a game that could have gone 3-2 to Arsenal. Ralf Rangnick was not happy with that Arsenal performance. With Ollie, with Carrick, with McKenna, they'd be happy with that performance because they'd see the win. They would see that there was no issue with Scott McTominay. They'd be happy with the performance. They'd see the win, and they'd play the exact same starting 11 next week. Ralf Rangnick watched that game. He knows that we won, but he wasn't happy with the performance because he said the win wasn't convincing enough. He knew that there was problems with certain players. He didn't name anyone. He's not going to go Scott McTominay wasn't good enough, but I wouldn't be shocked if he saw that. That's what Ralf Rangnick brought. He could see these problems, and I think that's what I liked, that because I think with our coaches, it's the same 11 playing every week. We're going, why isn't Maguire dropped? Why isn't Scott McTominay dropped? How's Ollie not seeing that, Rashford's better on the left? Why is Sancho playing on the left and Rashford on the right? All these things that we point out, the coaches don't see. And I tell you what, I think Rangnick's like us. I think Rangnick sat in that Man United game and thought, Sancho and Rashford need to swap wings. Let's get someone like Donny on the pitch from McTominay. We need to take control of this game. Because Rangnick probably knew that midfield didn't take control of the game. And I think, but the coaches at Man United probably don't realise this. And another really, really interesting thing is, talking of Donny van de Beek, Rangnick is a big admirer of Ten Hag. Ten Hag worked in the Bundesliga. You know, Ten Hag is the favourite to get the Manchester United job in the summer because apparently Rangnick prefers him to Pochettino. And, you know, Rangnick likes technical players. You know, he scouted Jadon Sancho. If you name the technical players at Manchester United, Jadon Sancho is one of them. And by technical, I mean intelligent players that can read the game, that can control games and all of that. And that's the kind of player that Rangnick likes. And, you know, Scott McTominay is Rangnick's worst enemy right now because he passes backwards all the time. And I said earlier, Rangnick's either going to turn Scott McTominay into a good player and tell Scott McTominay what he's doing wrong, what he needs to do to get better. Because I think, in fairness to Scott McTominay, he has been atrocious. But has he been coached well? No. You know, we're saying that Greenwood and Marshall aren't being coached properly. I think we can say the same for Scott McTominay. But I also think that Rangnick will look at players like Donny van de Beek and much prefer them to Scott McTominay because of his intelligence, his ability to read the games, run between the lines, pick up pockets of space, and move the ball quickly. Thank you for the super chat, Miss Goldbridge. Ralf might just be our master Shifu, but we need to find our Poe to execute his philosophy. Ralf is a man with proper knowledge, but I doubt he can execute as his manager advisor role suits him. Thank you very much for the super chat, first of all. And second of all, yes, we brought Ralf Rangnick in, but he can't produce a miracle right away. And I think Ralf Rangnick kind of touched on this in his press conference. Ralf Rangnick talked about how, you know, he's only here short term. You know, he's not got much time between fixtures to try something new and do some intense fitness drills. What Ralf Rangnick was kind of saying in a way was, you know, I don't want to risk any injuries at this time in the season, so I can't, you know, make these players get any fitter and do any stress training, and he can't make drastic changes. You know, he kind of said, like, he can't produce miracles because the fixture list is so dense. There's a match every 3 days. He doesn't want to risk injuries and all of that because where he is in the season. But he also make a change. But I think what you mean is, I think Ralf Rangnick, if he'd come in the summer, if he was allowed to bring all his coaches in and all that, it'd be fine. But I think, you know, Ralf Rangnick would be improvement. I think we'll see an improvement in decision-making, lack of favouritism, better playing, better ball movement. But I think, yeah, he's not going to execute his plan perfectly because there's too many fixtures for him to implement something, risk implementing something too different because he's going to risk injuries. And there's also, you know, he might not be able to bring his coaches in and all that. But thank you very, very much for the super chat. Very much appreciated as well. And we need a proper manager who is afraid of who's not afraid of big personalities in the dressing room. Now, you know what? We've got big personalities in the Manchester United dressing room. But I don't think Ronaldo and Pogba had that much impact on, you know, decisions made and all of that. I think they've always respected Carrick and Ollie because they were club legends, believe it or not. It sounds like, if anything, Georgie says 3 Donny. And I tell you what, Donny van de Beek is like a new midfield signing. I generally feel like, as of today, the Ralf Rangnick era started last night. The Ralf Rangnick era starts today. I feel like we've brought in Donny van de Beek today. I generally feel like that about Donny van de Beek. For me, he is like an absolute brand new signing at Manchester United because we've seen him play in the pivot. That 45 minutes versus Watford in the pivot, he did 100 times more better things than Scott McTominay. Absolutely outclassed him. And anyone that watched that game would watch Scott McTominay in the pivot in the first half and Donny in the pivot in the second half. And you would be picking Donny, over Scott McTominay, just even if you had very little knowledge on Donny and Scott McTominay. It's very, very obvious that Donny was so much better. And the fact that Scott McTominay continues to play in pivot, when Donny's played since, it's for Bruno, even though Donny got a man-of-the-match performance in the pivot when we were 2-0 down to Watford and outshone McTominay, and McTominay starts the next game, said all we needed to know about these coaches, that they weren't good enough. And Ralf Rangnick saw we won 3-2. Chris said that we won 3-2, but the performance wasn't convincing. And, you know, if you're, you know, he's probably going to play players like Donny van de Beek. And he's going to see a player Donny van de Beek. Because I said he likes the Ajax way. And as I said, this is the start of Donny's career. This is like signing a brand new centre midfielder. I feel right now like Manchester United have brought in a brand new centre midfielder because we've probably started Donny van de Beek in the pivot in maybe 6 or 7 games. And all of those 6 or 7 games, he's been very, very good. But then he never gets played. The only time he's bad was when he doesn't play in the pivot. And I think it will very much be the start of Donny van de Beek's career. Guys, please do smash a like on the video if you have not already. And subscribe to Alice Talks Football if you're not subscribed to the channel. If you want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more, smash a like, smash a subscribe, because I will be live tomorrow night for the Manchester United versus Crystal Palace match preview. It's going to be very, very hard to predict what we're going to do against Crystal Palace, and I will show you my predicted lineup. But tomorrow's video will be talking more about the Crystal Palace game, the match preview and all of that. I will be live tomorrow to discuss that. But we do know that Ronaldo was in Ralf Rangnick's plans because And I always thought that he would be, because there was a lot of talk going on about how Ronaldo doesn't press, and all these pundits saying Ronaldo presses the least and he's going to struggle under Ralf Rangnick. And I said this before, and if you watch the channel, I've said this a few times. I said, we can keep talking about, Ronaldo's going to struggle under Rangnick because he doesn't press. But, we were talking about at the beginning, just before Ronaldo joined, how he's 36, he's going to play in the hardest league in the world in the graveyard shift, where he'll get absolutely no service. And, Ronaldo has played Carrick ball and he's played Ollie ball, where he's been starved of service, been given the ball very little times, not had much chance to get involved in games. He's 36 in the toughest league in the world, and he looks brilliant. So I don't have any worries about Ronaldo playing Rangnick ball, because Rangnick said Ronaldo's in his plans. Rangnick can't believe how physically fit Ronaldo is. And if Ronaldo can thrive in Ollie ball, if Ronaldo can thrive in Carrick ball, then 100,000,000% Ronaldo's going to be fine in Rangnick ball, because Rangnick ball is attacking. Any striker wants to play for a team that play attacking football where they get chances, because that makes them a better player. Ronaldo's going to play for an attacking team that creates chances. He's already been a successful player in a team with no tactics, in the hardest league in the world, with very little service. So now you give Ronaldo a bit of service, I think he'll be a good player. I do want to show you what I do expect to see versus Crystal Palace in a moment, what players could play. And as Andrew says, Ronaldo certainly puts in a shift, and also he knows his body and his energy. He isn't going to press and chase the ball around all match when they're playing shy. Exactly. And Ronaldo will put in a shift. Ronaldo will do his role. But if you remember, Ralf Rangnick's last team he managed, RB Leipzig, Poulsen wasn't, Werner did a lot of the running, made a lot of the runs in mind, did a lot of pressing well. Poulsen was more the physical guy, and Poulsen was very, very good. Or Poulsen, however you say it. So, yeah. I'm actually going to predict the lineup tomorrow. And I think, now I would have predicted Wan-Bissaka over Dalot, but I think Dalot had a very, very good game. And I think Rangnick will put a bit of faith in Dalot, because I think Dalot is more Rangnick than Wan-Bissaka. I think that Bailly will maybe play, because I look at all the centre-backs that Ralf Rangnick scouted. Varane's injured, so that's why I'm putting Maguire in. But I look at all the centre-backs that, he's Rangnick sort of scouted and brought into the RB clubs. Konate, Upamecano. All of them are quite pacey, physical centre-backs. A lot of the centre-backs that Ralf Rangnick's brought to his clubs are very Eric Bailly-esque. And I think he'll like Eric Bailly more than Lindelof. And I like Lindelof, actually. I do like Lindelof. I think he's actually quite a good defender. But I've always preferred Eric Bailly to Lindelof and Maguire. Because I've always felt Lindelof and Maguire, when they play together, they're slow. It's so easy to get in behind them and all of that. When you're going to be playing gegenpressing football, when you're going to be playing Ralf Rangnick style football, when you're going to be playing attacking football, there's a chance of us losing the ball, and we have to get back into position quickly. And I think that highlights the centre-back, the need for a quick centre-back. And Varane's a quick centre-back and Bailly's a quick centre-back, but Maguire and Lindelof aren't. And I think Bailly could start to play more than Lindelof now, because it's always been, Maguire, Varane, Lindelof. It's always been Maguire and Lindelof, not Maguire and Bailly. But I think with Varane injured, we could start to see Maguire and Bailly if he stays fit under Ralf Rangnick. So I think that will be the top four. Now, his 4-2-2 are kind of like wide cams and all of that. And as Ralf Rangnick says, Ronaldo's 100% definitely in his plan. So I think the fact that we can put Ronaldo in there like that, fine. And I think, whoever's going to play in this role is going to be interesting. But I think if he was fully fit, I'd say Cavani. I'd say Cavani, if he was fully fit, is the most Ralf Rangnick-like player, because he presses and all of that. But I think he will play Rashford, Martial, or Greenwood in that kind of Werner role, the role that Werner did at RB Leipzig. And I think Martial will play versus RB Leipzig. Sorry, Martial will play versus Crystal Palace over Rashford, because I don't think Rashford was good enough. I think Rashford needs a break, and as Rangnick said, Martial is a very, very good player. And Martial can provide that little bit of pacing behind. So I think it'll be Martial in my prediction. And, I think Rashford will probably take over that role more, but I think I'll go Martial for now. And I think when Cavani's fit, I think he's going to have a very, very big role. Now, I think this is the most obvious position on the pitch to predict. I think Jadon Sancho will start. Jadon Sancho didn't even get a goal or assist yesterday, and Jadon Sancho was incredible. I know when I actually look back at the game, and I watched a bit of the highlights and stuff, and I watched over the game, I thought, wow, Jadon Sancho was very, very, very good yesterday. He didn't get a goal or assist, but he was very, very good. He's been good in his last couple games. And all of that. He's been good for a while now, Jadon Sancho. And I think he's a technical player, he's a Ralf Rangnick player, he's a player that Ralf Rangnick knows. I think without a doubt, he will start. And what I'm most excited for, and I don't know how to repeat myself because I say this all the time, is Jadon Sancho's Manchester United career started a couple of days ago, because he was absolutely brilliant. He's been absolutely brilliant in his last 5 or 6 games. He started 3 games in a row. But Jadon Sancho is going to be playing for a manager that knows exactly what he's about, that plays the football that's exactly what he's about. Because as I said before, Thomas Tuchel and Jurgen Klopp learned from Ralf Rangnick. Where did Thomas Tuchel and Jurgen Klopp go before the Premier League? Borussia Dortmund. Majority of the Borussia Dortmund coaches and the managers there have all got their style sort of from what they've learned from Ralf Rangnick over the years. And it's very, very similar, Dortmund and what Sancho played with Dortmund to what Ralf Rangnick wants to do. And I think that means Jadon Sancho is going to become a very, very important player, a very, very heavily used player, and he's going to be a very, very good player on the Ralf Rangnick. Because if Jadon Sancho is thriving in Carrick ball where he's not getting much of the ball, he's not getting much of space, he's not playing with the most technical players. He's relying on Scott McTominay to pass forward, which is a hard thing to rely on because that never happens. All of a sudden he's now going to be maybe playing Donny in the pivot. Because in the second half versus Watford, although we were atrocious versus Watford, we were talking about how Sancho and Donny were so good. And for the whole last 4 or 5 years at Manchester United, we've always been so much better on that left wing than that right wing. For the last 5 years at Man United, we've been absolutely better on the left wing than the right wing. But all of a sudden, that 45-minute spell we had versus Watford in the second half with Sancho playing as a right winger and Donny playing in the right pivot, we looked really, really good. We looked really, really convincing. I was so impressed. I was like, this is good. I was like, this right side of Donny and Sancho, it could work absolutely fantastically. And, we saw something in Sancho. And now Rangnick knows who Sancho is, and he's going to play to the Dortmund way to Sancho's strengths. I think, and Sancho's probably going to play on the right because we brought a right wing to play on the left. Only our coaches would. I think we're going to see an absolute madness in Sancho. I think, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe I'm being positive, and I like to be positive. I like to be a bit deluded. I like to get ahead of myself a lot, of course. But I think Jadon Sancho is on track to become one of the best players in Manchester United history. And that sounds stupid. That might sound stupid, but we know his potential. We've seen what he can do in these last couple of games, and he's going to have a manager who's going to bring in coaches to work with him, because this manager and his coaches turned Mane into a great player, turned Firmino into a great player, turned Haaland into a great player. Sancho's 21. He was mad at Dortmund. I think you could turn him to a great player. Someone said not Martial as striker, says Juan. I've only put Martial as striker because Rangnick said, Martial's the top player and he only got 5 minutes versus Arsenal. I think, and Martial's a bit more technical than Rashford, and I think that Rangnick likes more technical players, but I think Rashford will probably override Martial long term. But I think as well, he wants to rotate the squad. It's only been 2 days since the Arsenal game, and I think he'll want to put in some kind of rotation. Now, I'm going to play Bruno as the other cam because I think Bruno and Sancho will be the two creators. They're the two most creative players, and I don't think you can drop Bruno Fernandes. He's too important on the team. I am going to say that Fred's going to start because I think what Rangnick saw on Fred is that Fred won the ball back high up the pitch, and although Fred got overrun in the midfield with McTominay, Fred won the ball back in key areas. Fred won the ball back high up the pitch. Fred received the ball in key areas. I think Ralf Rangnick saw that in Fred. I think Ralf Rangnick probably noticed a good quality in Fred, and he probably thought like I thought. Muck Fred yesterday were crap. If we're talking about Muck Fred and we're talking about the midfield yesterday, they were crap. They were overrun. But you're talking about Fred as an individual, the way he got in those pockets of space up the pitch, the way he progressed the ball up the pitch, the way he ran up the pitch. Fred as an individual had a very, very good performance. Fred did. And that's what I noticed. And I think that's what Ralf Rangnick will notice, that maybe as Muck Fred was bad, but Fred as an individual was good. And I'm going to go with Donny van de Beek because McTominay started so many games in a row. There's importance for rotation. We've got a heavy fixture list coming up. And I think Donny van de Beek, proven versus Watford, they should start in the pivot. Ralf Rangnick's very aware of the Ajax way. He's very aware of Ten Hag. I think he'll play Donny van de Beek in the pivot because he's been clear of Scott McTominay. And that is my predicted lineup for the Crystal Palace game. However, because I think he's only got 1 day of training, this is my maybe predicted lineup for the Crystal Palace game. But because he's only got 1 day of training with the players, I think we could more likely see it like this. I think he wants to do a 4-2-2 long term because that's what he did at Leipzig. But I think we could see this. I think he'll stay with the 4-2-3-1 because I don't think he has enough time to change. And I think we will see more of this. And I think I'm happy to see this. I think this will work. But when I say we're playing a 4-2-3-1, a lot of players go, not the 4-2-3-1. The 4-2-3-1 is absolutely horrible. But when I say we're playing the 4-2-3-1, when you play the 4-2-3-1 under Carrick and Ollie, it's like this. This is the 4-2-3-1 under Carrick and Ollie. And it's McTominay, not Donny. I think the 4-2-3-1 over Rangnick will be very much like this. Very much like this. Overload in the attack, press up high, win the ball back. I think that's more of the 4-2-3-1 that we'd see on Rangnick. A lot more attacking. Someone says Greenwood better than Martial. I think Greenwood's got a higher ceiling than Martial and Rashford. and all of that. And I've seen loads of tweets saying, all I want for Christmas is Sue. So yeah, I've seen a lot of those tweets. And Martial had a 20-goal season up front, and a couple seasons ago, Rangnick may hope to replicate that, especially in the front two. Exactly. I think a lot of people forget how good Martial has been for United in the past. Martial's been poor the last 18 months. Let's not forget that. But I think a lot of people forget that there is a good player in Martial. And in the 1920 season, you've got to remember, for the first half of the 1920 season, Martial was playing with service from Lingard that didn't get an assist all season, and Pereira that was crap. And Martial got 35 goal contributions and 3,500 minutes for a crap United side. Martial got a goal contribution every 100 minutes in the 1920 season under Oli Ball, playing with Pereira, playing with Lingard. Because, Martial is a good player. And he's a technical player. And like Rashford, like Greenwood, I don't think Martial, Rashford or Greenwood have improved since the 2019-20 season. Greenwood got 17 goals. Then the next season, he just didn't look as good. And we said, and then he started to find form towards the end. Rashford was amazing. Then he got his injury, didn't look as good. And Martial was amazing, came back the next season and was crap. Martial, Rashford and Greenwood all had their best season for Manchester United in the 19-20 season. They were all brilliant. They scored more goals than Mane, Salah and Firmino. And they haven't got better. I don't think any of them have got better since that season. I think that's been all three of theirs best season, that 1920 season. And they've all stagnated, all of them. Martial, the most noticeable, because one, he's not English, so everyone's going to notice it, and two, because it was a big drop-off. But I think all of these players can become good players. And I think Ralf Rangnick knows that all these players are good players underperforming. And he can get something out of them. And that's why I'll give Scott McTominay a fresh start. That's why I'll give Wan-Bissaka a fresh start. Because you know what? Wan-Bissaka was good in his first season. He stagnated. Scott McTominay is very highly rated, so there's got to be a player in there. I think every player gets a fresh start, because I just think these coaches are ruining these players. And I think now Ralf Rangnick's going to be able to bring in coaches. And I'm going to get into a little bit of news in a sec. We might start to see a little bit of a change. Talking of the news about Ralf Rangnick bringing in coaches, it was said that, if I can find it, on my notes, it said that Gerhard Struber could potentially be Ralf Rangnick's assistant at Manchester United FC. Struber has had stints as manager as RB Salzburg's under 15, 16 and 19s manager. He's managed a lot of other German teams. He's also become manager of New York Red Bulls. He's obviously worked with Ralf Rangnick. He could be assistant manager. That is news of Gerhard Struber. Probably haven't said his name right, but we're getting all the Germans in. And you know what? If Ralf Rangnick worked with Thomas Tuchel and Jurgen Klopp before, he can work with this manager. Because I don't know who he wants to bring in as assistant manager. I don't know who he wants to bring in as the performance analyst. I don't know who he wants to bring in as the Carrick replacement. But I don't care, because in Ralf Rangnick we trust. Because I think if you watch that press conference, the way he talked about it, the way he said we beat Arsenal but it wasn't perfect, the way he's analysing situations, the way he's talking about, the players that he named was Ronaldo, Sancho, Mason Greenwood, Rashford, Greenwood. He was only naming attacking players and talking about the strength we have in attack and how many good young talents we have. And Ralf Rangnick at RB Leipzig, all the clubs he's been at, has been about young attacking talent, bringing them through, making them better. And that's why I'm so excited. Fred against Arsenal did everything wrong and then everything right. He was like two players. He was two players versus Arsenal. He was the good Fred and the bad Fred at the same time. Imagine Varane and Bailly together. I think we'll see that under Rangnick. I feel like we will. And because Rangnick's style is high pressing, fast football, pace at the back is important. And I don't think we'll see it loads because Varane's injury record, Bailly's injury record, but I think we will see a Varane and Bailly game together. And I'm really excited to say that. Andrew says Rangnick did mention coaches he worked with being under long contracts elsewhere, and Brexit rules may be problematic for him to bring in who he wants right now. Exactly. It's a little bit hard for him to bring in. There's a bit of delays, but we know that Rangnick's going to slowly bring in his coaches, performance analysis, and all of that. Rangnick will not drop Lindelof because of his long ball ability. Maybe not. We'll see, actually. But I think, he needs pace at the back for the football he plays. So maybe he'll drop Maguire. Maybe he'll play Lindelof and Bailly and drop Maguire. Maybe. And finally, the new era has begun. Honestly, guys, I'm going to the Crystal Palace match on Sunday, and I'm going to do a match vlog of the match. I think I'm absolutely gassed for it. I'm going to do a cheeky match vlog, vlog the match, vlog the crowd. I won't vlog the whole game. I like to enjoy the moment, but I will be doing a match vlog at the weekend to Man U Crystal Palace, Ralf Rangnick's first game. So make sure you're subscribed for that. It will be up. I say the game ends at 4. I say it'll probably be up 5:30 Sunday, my match vlog, because the game ends at 4. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you share the video. Make sure you smash a like on that, because match vlog on Sunday, followed by the match reaction in the evening. And I am absolutely 100% gassed for that game. I am absolutely gassed for that game. I'm going to it. I'm going to watch it live, and I'll be vlogging it. So do subscribe if you're new. Smash a like on the video if you have not already, by the way, guys. We're trying to see if we can hit 400 likes by the end of the video. We've got 400 people watching. Can we hit 400 likes? If you've not hit that like button, smash that like button. It will be very much appreciated. Get your live chats in down below. I've got a couple things I want to talk about before I wrap up the live stream. Crystal Palace Sunday. Ralf Rangnick's here. Carrick resigns. The Carrick era is over. You know, big step for a lot of players. You know, a lot of players' Man United careers are just sort of starting, and it's going to get off in exciting ways. And I think that is such an exciting thing. Yeah, only 66 likes needed for 300 likes. Everyone keeps smashing that like button if you have not already. And this comment says, but we need a world-class CDM who can control our central midfield. And you're 100% correct. You're 100,000,000% correct with that comment, because we do need a CDM. I'm talking about attackers. I'm talking about what we have. And Ralf Rangnick's going to get the January transfer window. Whether he'll be backed or not, that's a question of fact. What we'll find out. But I guarantee you, Ralf Rangnick's made a CDM his first choice priority. We know from Fabrizio Romano that Man United's priority comes somewhere as a CDM. Man United could maybe get a CDM in January. And if we get a CDM in January, I think that transforms our season, because I think the only thing missing from this team is a CDM and some getting McKenna feeling out and getting some better coaches in. I think that's the only thing missing. And I think squad-wise, and I've said this before, I don't think our squad is any worse than Chelsea's, any worse than Liverpool's squad, player for player on paper. But we're so far behind Chelsea and Liverpool, and they're so much better than us because they've got better coaches, better systems, better managers, better owners. You know, and that's why they're so far ahead of us. And I think get in some coaches, get in a good manager, and get in a CDM. And I think we could actually, I'm not going to say we're going to win the league. I'm not going to say we're going to win crazy titles, but I think we could definitely catch a gap and look like a good team. But we need a CDM, but we are linked to Hedera. There's definitely a chance of Manchester United going and signing Hedera. So we'll have to wait and see where that one goes. As well, the Sporting Lisbon manager is good. He qualified for the UCL with Ajax and BVV in his group. He did. Very, very good manager. Sporting Lisbon have looked really, really good lately. He'll probably end up going to Wolves, because you know what Wolves are like. And sort of wish Axel was here to work under Ralf Rangnick. He still has potential for me. He could suit Rangnick. He isn't playing that much again as of late. Yeah, I think Axel Tuanzebe, we saw him pocket Mbappe. I think it's a good player in Axel Tuanzebe, and he's very Canate kind of like. And I think Rangnick could make him a good player. And I don't think Rangnick starts Van der Beek over McFred. I think we maybe see McFred in the first game, because he hasn't had much to change. He hasn't had much input. He's only going to listen to Ollie. You know, Rangnick had a 2-hour phone call with Ollie, and everything else he's going to be told about Man United is from the coaches until he decides to make decisions. You know, so the fact that he's had a 2-hour phone call with Ollie, he's probably said, Scott McTominay's the heart of the team. We're not the same team without him. That's what he's told Rangnick. So we could see McFred, but I think long term, if we see McFred and they're good, they'll play more. But if we see McFred and they're crap, we won't see them. 4-2-2 diamond can be the best possible formation for United. I think that's what you want to play long term. I think versus Crystal Palace, guys, we're going to see a 4-2-3-1. I think versus Crystal Palace, we're going to see a 4-2-3-1. And I think we're going to see that because mostly he's only had 1 day of training to adapt things. But I think versus young boys, because we've already top of the group, because we've already qualified, because it's young boys, I think that's when we're going to see the 4-2-2 diamond. And that's when we're going to see something different. And that's when we're going to see attacking football. So I think we'll probably see a 4-2-3-1 come Palace. But I think young boys is actually, for me, what Rangnick wants to do. I don't think he's going to go too different for the Crystal Palace game, because he doesn't have time to work with them. But I think young boys when we'll see something. The Lima from Leipzig as CDM could be a shot as well. It could be a good shout. Looks quite good when I've seen him. And Ralf is familiar. Yeah, I mean, I'd take any CDM at this rate, but I trust Ralf Rangnick to bring in the CDM that he thinks is going to work best. 100%. Carrick manager of the season. He's absolutely undefeated. Carrick beat Arteta. You know, Tuchel couldn't beat him. Manager of the season. 100%. I mean, I can't believe he didn't get the contract out and gave Carrick the job. I think it's an absolute disgrace that we let Carrick resign. We should have given Carrick the job. We'd be singing Carrick's at the wheel. And, you know, I can't believe it. I can't that, honestly. And as Andrew says, Axel was rapid. His body language doesn't look it, but he's one of the quickest in the squad. He's so rapid. The way he pocketed Mbappe. This is the thing. We know Wan-Bissaka is a good player. Pocketed Mbappe and Neymar. We know Axel is. And I don't like young boys, but that's good because I didn't want you to be a nonce. You know, I didn't want you to be a nonce. And no, we won't play McFred. You need one of the players in midfield to pass the ball. Exactly. But as I said, you know, I'm talking about how Rangnick could transform Rashford. I think this is a fresh start for Martial. I'm going to say that McTominay has been Mr. Pass Backwards FC for a while. I've been fed up with McTominay passing it backwards. But again, I think for me, this is a fresh start for Scott McTominay as well. I think this is a fresh start for Scott McTominay as well. So if I'm saying it's a fresh start for other players, if Scott McTominay, all you might need to say to Scott McTominay is control yourself, pass forward, move the ball quicker, and all of a sudden Scott McTominay could turn into the player that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and co think that he is, because the coaches see something in Scott McTominay that we don't see. So 100%, yeah. Guys, I am going to wrap up the live stream here. So please do make sure you smash a like on the video if you have not already. Please do subscribe down below to the channel if you're not subscribed, and share the video. I'll be live tomorrow night for the Manchester United versus Crystal Palace match preview. I'll try and answer some more live chats in tomorrow's night's video. Rangnick will be in training with the squad tomorrow. So I'm going to see if I can get any footage from the training sessions. I'm going to see if I can get any footage from the training sessions, any information from the training session that happens tomorrow to talk about in the live as well, and see if we can get some leaked lineups or anything like that. So we'll be live tomorrow night for the Rangnick Man United preview, and then Sunday will be a match vlog of Rangnick's first game at Old Trafford. So if that sounds interesting, if you want to see the match vlog of Rangnick's first game at Old Trafford, I'm going to the game, subscribe. If you want to be in tomorrow's match, just live preview, subscribe. I'll try and get through some more live chats. So smash a like, smash a subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Live tomorrow.